On the 4th of July, 2026, the country's 250th birthday, the White House released a report about a museum, 162 pages. And its main complaint was not that the museum had lied. It was that the museum had told way too much truth about slavery and had not celebrated the nation enough. Now, I really want you to just sit with how strange that is for a second. The charge wasn't historical inaccuracy. The charge was literally insufficient celebration. Today, we're going to dive into an explainer analyzing a brilliant essay by Denzel Kenobi which unpacks exactly what is happening to American history right now. In this commentary, published just a couple of weeks after that anniversary, Kenobi argues that the nation is undergoing a massive rebrand. And, a rebrand is just a refresh of an image, usually timed to a big occasion. But a rebrand always hits the same exact wall. If the old historical record contradicts the shiny new image, that old record has to be softened, it has to be moved, or written over entirely to match a cleaner surface. And Kenobi points out, we don't have to guess what's in anyone's heart here. This isn't about some secret backroom scheme. We're watching it happen in broad daylight. And it all comes back to this striking hook. When that huge federal report dropped on July 4th, it basically accused a national museum of extreme political activism simply for showing the unvarnished reality of the past. When the highest levels of government declare that telling the truth is a failure to celebrate, well, that sets the stage for a very specific kind of historical operation. Kenobi proposes that this rebrand operates through two totally distinct departments. Let's look at Department 1, concealment. To explain this idea of hiding the past, he brings in this amazing picture from the book of Ezekiel. The prophet is shown a vision of a flimsy, structurally unsound wall being built, and right behind the builders come false prophets, daubing the wall with whitewash, or what the text calls untempered mortar. It's cosmetic plaster, smooth to the eye but absolutely worthless to the structure. It makes a wall that will eventually fall look like a wall that will stand. So Kenobi translates this ancient text straight into modern politics. He defines this whitewash as a softer, much more comfortable telling of history. The entire point is to conceal deep structural seams in the archive, things like the black codes, convict leasing, redlining. The cosmetic plaster isn't there to actually fix the structure. It's just there to cover up the harsh realities so nobody has to look at them. But Kenobi insists this is way more than just a clever metaphor. Which brings us to the documented campaign. This isn't theory, it's a paper trail. Over a tight 16-month legislative schedule leading up to the 250th, we see a systematic purging of racial injustice exhibits across federal institutions. It kicks off in March 2025, builds up through the summer and autumn, peaks on July 4th, 2026, and lands right in Congress a few weeks later. Just look at these receipts. March 2025, an executive order to purge divisive race-centered ideology that supposedly causes national shame. By that summer, there are public complaints that the Smithsonian dwells too much on how bad slavery was. Then comes the July report, and finally, a House hearing literally titled Rewriting American History. And here is the absolutely crucial takeaway. Nobody is actually disputing the historical facts of racial terror. Instead, the campaign simply reclassifies the telling of those facts as a political offense. The true gravity of this concealment was captured during those July House hearings. A congressman, who actually grew up having to drink from segregated fountains, summed up the resistance to this whole operation in 6 exact words. If you erase it, we will replace it. The stakes are fully understood by the people whose histories are on the chopping block. But you see, a rebrand cannot survive on concealment alone. Nature abhors a vacuum. That brings us to Department 2, substitution. Once you hide the old record, you have cleared out a lot of space. Kenobi argues you have to fill that void with a flattering, new origin story to collect the praise. This is how the two mechanisms work together. Concealment hides the historical debts, while substitution installs a fabricated, noble retelling. To ground this, he uses the Exodus scene of the golden calf. While Moses is away, the people make a golden calf and say, "These be thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt." Think about what they're doing. The true, complex account of their deliverance is totally transferred to a shiny, fabricated object. Why? Because a golden object made by human hands asks absolutely nothing of you and accuses no one. The essay maps this golden retelling directly onto modern Christian nationalism. Kenobi argues this movement provides the necessary divine warrant to legitimize the newly rewritten national image. Basically, if you fold a specific brand of Christianity into the state machinery, the softened history gets the ultimate stamp of approval. He tracks this through a White House-backed prayer event in May 2026 and a June draft report doing exactly this. Now, proponents see this as just recovering their inheritance, for sure. But Kenobi points out that ancient prophets like Amos and Jeremiah fiercely condemned using a holy self-image to cover up an unholy record. To the prophets, offering worship in place of actual justice isn't a cure, it's the offense itself. Which elevates this entire debate into a profound moral failing. Let's look at false witness at a national scale. Drawing on the wisdom of Solomon, Kenobi outlines the anatomy of this erasure. It's a three-step sequence. First, you make strength the law of justice. Second, you redefine the weak as being worth nothing. And third, you justify the oppression as totally reasonable. Once you fundamentally change the standard of justice, the false witness eventually stops feeling like a lie to the people telling it. And the devastating endgame of this rebrand is found right here in the Book of Sirach. The goal isn't just to soften a few edges. The goal is to manufacture a population whose suffering is filed away as though they had never been, to leave them with no memorial so a more comfortable story can just take over the real estate. So, facing all of this, what is the countermeasure? The command to write. Operating on this strict anniversary deadline, Kenobi concludes you can't just argue a whitewashed wall back into soundness. He points to the command given to Habakkuk, write the vision and make it plain. That's it. Just write the true account down. Make it so plain that anyone running past can read it, and keep writing it down faster than they can slather on the cosmetic plaster. Because, as Kenobi reminds us, a wall built with untempered mortar has a habit of coming down. The whitewash will eventually fall off on its own, and when it does, the foundation is exposed exactly as it always was. Which leaves us with this final thought. When that plaster finally crumbles, how will history judge the records we chose to keep versus the ones we tried so desperately to erase? Keep that in mind as the celebrations roll out. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and we'll see you next time.